I cannot, I was furious watching the interview in my office. I cannot believe the first words out of his mouth weren't, I'm sorry, I said something ignorant, I need to learn about the history of this country. No contrition, didn't talk about, the suffering that Native Americans have had to deal with.
Hello, welcome to The Ordeal. Now, if you don't know who this is Don Lemon. He is a reporter on CNN. And what is he crying about? What is he complaining about? What is the big deal here? He seems to be very upset. You can hear it in his voice. He's just like, just on the edge of wanting to just break down and go off on somebody. Well, he is unhappy about this.
We came here and created a blank slate. We birthed a nation from nothing. I mean, there's nothing here. I mean, yes, we have Native Americans, but candidly, that there isn't much Native American culture in American culture. It was born of the people who came here pursuing religious liberty to practice their faith.
So, that is what Don Lemon is upset about. You can hear it in his voice. Apparently saying that there are Native Americans in North America, and then Europeans came here and made a country in North America. Made a couple of countries, actually, 2, 3 if you count Mexico. And maybe even more if you count the islands in the Atlantic. Well, they came here and they made these countries out of the land, and they didn't use a whole lot of Native American culture. We don't use a whole lot of Native American culture anymore. That's the big infraction that Rick Santorum, that was Rick Santorum speaking, that he made. It's heartbreaking, isn't it? Speaking the truth. And now if I'm wrong and there is a lot of Native American culture in the United States today, let me know. I'll gladly concede the point if you can prove your point. I will say I was wrong, you were right, and we do use a lot of Native American culture in this country. But you're not going to be able to do that because we don't. Let's see what else Don Lemon has to say here.
The suffering that Native Americans have had to deal with in this country, Rick Santorum, really? Did he actually think it was a good idea for him to come on television and try to whitewash the whitewash that he whitewashed?
In what way was he whitewashing anything? I mean, you can say that he whitewashed it by saying, there's not that much Native American influence in this country. There's not much Native American influence in any country from what I can see. If you count like the Mayans, the Incans as Native Americans, then you could say that there's a lot of Native American influence in Mexico, South America, Central America. That would not be an outrageous claim to make because they are heavily influenced by those cultures. But those people are the dominant race. Hispanic people are a mix between the natives and white people that interbred with them. So I don't know why you're all bent out of shape that he pointed out the fact that this is a country founded by white people for white people. I mean, it's just, that's what it is. I'm not saying that to be mean or to be nice. It's just a thing that happened. You tell me, Don. I don't understand.
I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible and insulting, and I apologize to the viewers who were insulted by it because I was sitting in my office furious because he's done it so many times. So many times.
Oh my goodness, he has an opinion that's different from yours? In fact, in this case, he has facts that are different from your opinion? Heaven forfend. What will we ever do, Don Lemon? How will we ever get through this travesty of language that facts are facts and your feelings don't matter?
And it's just, I'm sorry, it was so egregious and insulting, and everything that we talk about the founding of this country, Europeans did not found this country.
I'm sorry, they didn't? Who did? Who founded this country? Let me see what he says here. Because last time I checked, we have like the Constitution that was signed by like George Washington and John Hancock and Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and Adams and all these white guys that had ancestry traceable directly back to Europe. Let's see what Don says. Maybe he knows more than I do. I mean, he seems like he's a smart, intelligent, educated guy. Look at him. He's obviously doesn't have that like 1,000-yard stare there. Like you just asked him to divide 180,000 by 299.
It was here. The Native Americans had this country before the Europeans came.
No, the Native Americans did not have a country here before the Europeans came. The Native Americans had a disjointed group of tribes that would fight with each other, each of which had their own system of rules by which to live, and frequently had differing enough religious ideas that you could call those different religions that they followed. Yeah, so I don't know what to tell you about that. Some had a democratic rule. Some of the natives had a democratic rule. Some of them had a authoritarian rule, and they had everything in between. I mean, so I'm not a historian of Native American culture. I'm not an anthropologist of Native American culture. But this is what I understand it to be. You can read some books, Don. Well, maybe you can't. You probably don't know how to read, do you?
Yeah, the Europeans conquered the country, they colonized it, but they didn't. It had nothing to do with the founding of this country.
They had nothing. They literally all. I just went over this signing of the Declaration.
And he should recognize that. He needs to know that, especially if he's going to be on television representing us and talking about it. He should be doing it from the right perspective.
You should be doing it from the right perspective, Don, if you're going to be on television. You should be talking about how, there were a disparate group of tribes here that all had different belief systems and rules to live by, and then the Europeans came in and kind of unified everything over the course of a few hundred years. And the natives fought back against that. In fact, the natives started the fighting. The Europeans came in and wanted to peaceably come here, but then the natives were like, hey, we don't want these damn foreigners coming in here, mucking up our land and taking our jobs. We want to have those jobs for ourselves. And so they fought back. And I don't blame them. I would do the same thing. It's like, hey, we got to stop immigration in this country. We got way too much of it. But, it's okay for people like Don Lemon to be hypocritical on this subject matter. If I were to even just share non-hypocritical beliefs, then I'm the bad guy.
And not from some perspective about how, what Europeans... No, that's the wrong way to look at it. That is it's all wrong. I'm sorry, but that is the truth. And I can't believe I was watching it going, I cannot believe this man is sitting here and doing this. It was like for Black Lives Matter, it was like Native American Lives Matter moment for me watching that.
BLM is a communist organization that wants to take over the world and have black people rule, and they think that the reason black people are not in charge of the world is because of white people exist. I don't hear natives talking the same way, although I think a lot of them do feel the same way. They feel that their plight is all because of white people. We've gone to great lengths to try to even the score with Native Americans, to giving them, stipends, universal basic income, giving them all sorts of different handouts to kind of make this okay, that we, quote, took their land. It was a war. That's what happens in war. Can't say it better than this.
I just can't take all this mamby-pamby boo-hooing about the bloody Indians.
The preferred term is...
You won, all right? You came in and you killed them and you took their land. That's what conquering nations do. That's what Caesar did. And he's not going around saying, I came, I conquered, I felt really bad about it. The history of the world is not people making friends. You had better weapons and you massacred them. End of story.
A lot of people have spoken out about what Rick Santorum said. Here we have Trevor Noah talking about it. Check it out.
You may have seen a political pundit named Rick Santorum, former Republican senator, and what you get if you sucked the handsome out of Mitt Romney. He's known for his reliably conservative opinions on the big issues of the day. But now, one of his lesser-known opinions about American history has slipped out.
Rick Santorum, since losing his Pennsylvania Senate seat to Bob Casey years ago, Santorum has found one-off cable stardom. He wasn't particularly well known for his views on Native Americans until today, when this surfaced, a portion of his remarks to the Young America's Foundation.
So we already saw this part of the speech that Rick Santorum gave earlier in the video. We'll just skip to Trevor Noah's response to it.
I hate to admit it, but Rick Santorum is right. From Tallahassee to the Mojave Desert, from Chappaqua to Chattanooga.
Really? You're going to use names of places? And you said from Tallahassee to the Mojave. Why don't you say Miami? Miami's farther away from Mojave. And then you used Chappaqua? Where the hell is Chappaqua? Is that in New York? I've never even heard of Chappaqua. But you want to use Chattanooga as the opposite of that? Why don't you use Tacoma? Everybody knows about Tacoma. Tacoma is a Native American word. It means like frozen ice or something like that. Frozen water. Ice is always frozen, right? Which is weird that they wouldn't just translate it as ice. They translated it as frozen water. But either way, you chose these weird examples when there's tons of better examples. What about Chicago? Oh, I bet you didn't know that, Trevor Noah, because you're an immigrant. Hey, you came here. We let you come in, even though the natives didn't want us coming in, but we let you come in here. Oh, huh. And you're not even the same race as the majority of the country, huh? Wow, how evil of us to do that to you. It's amazing that we're such bad people that we let people of any race come in here. Treat them the same. Give them multi-million-dollar TV show contracts. It's fine. How we're that evil that we'll do that. Yeah, Chicago. I think it means wild marsh radishes. From Illinois. I've been to Chicago a lot. But I'm sure that you did not know that Chicago meant wild marsh radishes, did you, Trevor? Because you don't care. You don't really care. You're worried about your South African roots, your black heritage, not your white heritage. Let's see what else he has to say.
There's no trace of Native American culture anywhere in America. I mean, if anything, Native Americans should be grateful. Because before Santorum's forefathers got here, what did they have? They had nothing. They didn't have smallpox. They didn't have obesity. They didn't have unemployment. They didn't have drug addiction. Basically, life sucked.
Yeah, I bet it did without air conditioning, without vaccines, without antibiotics, without ease of access to food, like, you know, you get it from grocery stores, without automobiles, trains, without the horse. Yeah, we often think of Native Americans and the horse at the same time. But did you know what, Trevor Noah? The horse comes from Europe. Actually, it comes from Asia, but the Europeans brought it to the United States. You know what else they brought to the United States? Get a load of this. Pigs. Europeans brought pigs here. All the pigs in the United States, at least as far as I'm aware, maybe there's been some added to the population since then. All the pigs in the United States come from like 12 pigs that were released in Florida 500 years ago. But, you know, sadly, the Native Americans, they didn't benefit from any of those things. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. Trevor, he's just a better man than I am.
This argument is so offensive that even the Cleveland Indians logo stopped smiling. How can
Oh, yes, sports teams. The one part of Native American culture that we've kept is modeling our sports mascots after Native Americans. And you want to get rid of that. You want to stop that. It's racist to do that. You know, last time I checked, I don't see anybody walking around with a feather headdress on. I don't see anybody smoking peace pipes, living in wigwams or teepees. And I know that many Native American tribes lived in permanent settlements. They didn't use wigwams and teepees. I don't know about anybody hunting buffalo. And I know not all Native American tribes hunted buffalo. I know that too. But these are just some of the cultural things that Native Americans had that we do not have today. Who names their children the way Native Americans name them? You know, Sitting Bull is not a name you're going to give to your child. We'll give them African names. Thank you very much, Trevor. And we'll give them European names. And if you're an Asian person, you might name your child an Asian name. Maybe. Like I dated a girl. Her name was her middle name was Mika. She was part Japanese, but nobody gives Native American names. I've been to, you go drive through New Mexico, stop off in some of the cities there. I've been there. The majority of the citizens you see, the residents you see of those cities there, are native. They dress in jeans and t-shirts. They wear ponytails using scrunchies. They brush their teeth and comb their hair and wear eyeglasses. All those things that Native Americans invented and was part of Native American culture. Oh man, these people.
you say this? Oh no, there was nothing before we got... You know who Santorum is like? He's like that guy that shows up to a party late going, oh yeah, let's get this party started. No, my man. The party was going on for a few thousand years, long before you got...
He acknowledged that. He said there were Native Americans here, and they were doing their thing. He didn't say that. He didn't go into detail about what they were doing in the various nations, quote nations, because they were not actual nations. They were tribes that claimed a plot of land and said this is our land, and then they would war with the neighboring tribes typically. And the Europeans came in and made an actual country here. I don't know how many times I can hammer this home.
Out here with your whack ass moves. Oh, and just by the way, there probably would be more Native American culture if the colonizers hadn't taken their sacred ground to build a few Pizza Huts.
Yes, their sacred ground. The Native Americans, is my understanding, again, I'm not an anthropologist, they believe that the entirety of the Earth's surface is sacred land. That's it. The Earth's surface is sacred land. So if you do anything to it that is a sin, then you are damaging the sacred land. So they have a completely different way of believing. Trevor Noah doesn't even know this. Trevor Noah doesn't understand that if you do things to the world, to the earth, that is against the religion of the Native Americans, the spirituality of the Native Americans. He thinks it's all about, you took our sacred land, our religious land, and you just put Pizza Huts on there. How blasphemous of you. No. It's much, much worse than that, Trevor. You don't even know that. You just are trying to get people riled up, make them feel a certain way. That's just as disgusting as anything that Don Lemon said. These guys feel the same way. The history of the world, as we saw, the history of the world is determined by conquest. Not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's what happened. It's, in my opinion, unfortunate that we went through, and humans in general have gone through and murdered, tortured people. The Native Americans murdered and tortured the white people in this country. It was a war. It was an all-out war. The horrible things they did, they would remove the Europeans' arms and legs. They would cut them off without killing the European. And they would throw their bodies into a fire. And they would watch and laugh as these people burned to death. Horrifying stuff. Horrendous behavior on the part of the natives. And maybe you say, hey, they were right to do it. They were defending their land. Okay. I'm not going to argue that. The point I'm going to argue is, hey, we won. The Europeans won. And they made this a country, which it wasn't before. If you don't like it, too bad. Those are the facts. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you stopping by. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click that notification bell. I'm still having computer issues. Most of the issues have been dealt with, but the most important one is still plaguing my machine. So hopefully I can more videos out soon, but who knows.